Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let's go Twitter, copy link, share. Let me share this shit to Twitter that I'm live. There we go. Come on in here, y'all. Come on in here. Come on in here. We are talking about, is hip hop to blame for black on black violence? What's up, everybody in here? What's up, Ruben? Yeah, this is just a kind of an impromptu thing because I sort of woke up with a bug in my ass because it's Black Music Month, and this is also the year of that so-called Hip Hop 50 or whatever they're trying to celebrate, even though we know the shit goes back further. But what we've been having is I've been seeing a lot of people, and I'm especially disappointed because of the most people I see blaming violence in America on hip hop. It's older Generation X. What's up, YouTube? This is gonna be replaying on YouTube. Probably posted sometime tonight. So if you're listening on YouTube, this is a Twitter space where there will be people raising their hand and talking. Just be me. For those people who be on, hey, what's going on? No, it's a Twitter space for YouTube. So relax, relax, relax. And if anybody wants to speak in the audience, make sure y'all raise your hand. I'll get y'all up here to speak. Anytime I'm the only person I want to talk, I do a YouTube video. I do Twitter spaces when I want to hear what y'all got to say too. Anyway, what we've been seeing a lot is a lot of older Generation X. They're the main ones. When I say older Generation X, and I'm talking about like 40, like Generation X. I'm talking about 5, 50, and really 50 and up. I don't see this as much. I see it a little bit from the under 50 crowd, but I see really that. Let me just not 50 and up. Let me just say like from between the ages of say 46 and up 56. These are the main cats I'm disappointed in. You know what I mean? Because I was around. I'm born in 1981, so I'm that generation who rap has always been around my whole life. Ever since I've been listening to music, there's been a form of music called rap. But to those born in the 70s and the 60s, they remember a time. There's really those born really in the 60s and the 70s. They remember a time in music where, you know, there was no rap on the radio, and then it got on the radio. They remember that, and they also remember when hip hop and rap was being shitted on. And all my life in the 80s and the 90s, all I had to hear was rap music being to blame for everything. And Generation X, these cats that are the main ones running their mouth talking shit about rap music now, they were the main ones that was pushing that was the victim of this. Listening to C. Dolores Tucker when she was trying to ban Tupac, listening to all of the other people run their mouth about hip hop. A lot of the people that I see talking, blaming drill music and trap music on the problems in America, those are the same cats going through this shit, being victimized from it back in the 80s and the 90s. Now these niggas are doing the same things to the kids. The same thing the kids have to deal with, same thing they have to deal with. Now these cats are doing it to them. And that's a problem. That's something I want to talk about today. You know what I mean? And we're going to really break down some of this other stuff historically as to why hip hop is not to blame for black on black violence. But Ruben's up in here. I saw you put your hand up, Ruben. What's your opinion on this, man?
Oh yeah, I think that's some bullshit. Cause I mean, like you, I was born in '92, so all I know is hip hop is just here. Um, but yeah, I don't blame hip hop for black on black violence. Cause just in general,
You there,
violence.
Ruben?
What you said? What?
Did Ruben disappear?
No, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
I can't hear Ruben. Is that you? Are you talking, Ruben?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello.
I mean, I'm going to let me see here. I'm gonna remove and then bring them back. I don't know what the hell went on, Ruben. I don't know if that was me or if that was you. Invite to speak. I just invited you back, Ruben. I don't know if that was your mic or my mic or my headphones. But whatever. I just invited you back. Ruben, go ahead.
All right, can you hear me now? All
I hear you
right.
now, yeah.
But yeah, I never thought hip hop was to blame because that's dumb to say just because literally violence has existed since the beginning of humanity. So you can't even really say that it's a genre of music that's, I mean, humans have always had a violent side to them, and violence has perpetuated, like I said, since the beginning of time. So to act like in the last 50 years all of a sudden this genre comes up and now we just now getting violent, that's just kind of it's kind of stupid. Hello, hello, Dwan, you speaking? I can't hear you if you are. Oh, okay, you breaking up. Hello.
Let me see here. Yo, can y'all hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay. I'm trying to think. Let me go my. Let me see. I'm gonna go to my Wi-Fi. I'm in the Wi-Fi area. Anyway, um, like I come from that generation to where I was like the young kid. I was like the young kid who listened to the grown people talk shit about the older kids. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
so as a kid, I had to always listen to the grown people sort of blame rap music. When I was like, I'm talking about like when I was 10, before I got to the age I was, my generation and my friends was committing crime. Well, I never really got into committing crimes, but those of who were around me who were, we were the younger kids watching the grown people blame rap music on the older kids. And so I thought that there was some validity to it. There was no time that there was no hip hop. From my perspective, hip hop had
Mm.
always been around. And so if you ask me in 90 when NWA dropped 100 miles and running, I remember it being a whole lot of shit talk about 100 miles and running being the reason why we seeing what we see around us. And I remember thinking like, damn, this shit was going on before 100 miles and running came out. You know,
Yeah.
I remember when I was around. I was in the middle school. I was in seventh grade, sixth grade, going into seventh grade when the Chronic dropped, and then later on when I'll never forget Doggy Style dropped in seventh grade. And I remember, okay, now there's this new artist named Snoop Doggy Dogg, and I remember watching MTV News, Kurt Loder, and all of these people blame Snoop Doggy Dogg on all the violence going on in LA. And I remember shit when I was a kid. And mind you, it's crazy now I'm 42, but when I was 12 and 13, I remember thinking, shit, when I was a kid, I remember drive-bys happening when Cameo was on the radio.
So it's
And
funk that's causing this. It's not hip hop.
yeah,
It's funk music.
I was asking, these were just observations I was making as a 12-year-old. And so the talk to everybody listening, the talk that I'm having right now, this has been festering in I won't say festering, it's been fostering in my mind for over 30 years. Just being an observer of humanity, and seeing that, okay, and I never was the biggest hip hop fan. To this day, I don't listen to my favorite form of music is R&B, soul, then funk, and then jazz. I could probably name about 7 or 8 genres before I get into rap that I listen to before I listen to rap. But I remember being the person that was against all this stuff because I didn't like. I remember when Tupac dropped and All Eyes on Me. I remember seeing the effect that it had. I'm not saying that rap is innocent, but I'm saying does it have the? I'm asking, does it have the effect that we're putting on it? I'm gonna get to you, Rashad. Rashad, you got your hand up. I want to hear what you think, Rashad, and then we gonna get it going. Go ahead, Rashad. Unmute yourself.
What's good on?
What's up?
I don't think. I think we put too much emphasis on what happens with rap music in the sense of they try to make it seem like, oh, that's the true problem. That's why we have crime. And they always say, oh, that's black on black crime. Ignoring the dilapidation going on in the community, ignoring the fact that they actually push the drugs and the guns in these communities. If you were to take rap music out of the equation, you still would have crime in these communities because they orchestrated it to be like this. So the idea that rap music is the issue, it's ridiculous to me. And not only that, why don't they say that about all the pedophiles or the music that these old white musicians used to make, talking about she's only 16 years old, leave her alone? They used to make music
Who?
like that. But what was the name of that song? If you, I think you might you know more about music than I do, but yeah, that record there, they don't say, well, that's the issue of pedophilia or the fact that they make music like gore. Oh,
Hey,
I'm sorry.
Rashad. No, no, don't apologize. I'm cutting you off. Don't apologize, brother. That's me cutting you off, being rude. But you brought up an idea. There was a song that I would listen to. I love Steely Dan. They're one of my favorite bands ever. And they had an album that came out. This isn't an album that came out way back in the day. This album called Two Against Nature. It came out in the year 2000. I was in college. 2000, 2001. I was at Santa Monica College, and I bought it when it came out. I bought Two Against Nature the same year the Chronic 2001 dropped. So that show you what kind of music I listen to. So there's a song on there called, and it's called the hook is we used to play when we were three. How about a kiss from your cousin Loren? And it's a song about playing his children and kissing his cousins. And when you look at all the cousins fucking and incest children going on in white America, they don't talk about Steely Dan, one of the greatest, most awarded white bands ever, creating songs for promoting degenerate sexual behavior between family members, first cousins. When I seen my cousin Janine walk in, all I can say was, ouch. That's how the song goes. I remember listening to that song like, what the fuck am I listening to? And, but they only, like, it's all kind of weird, degenerate shit that goes on in all kinds of music, but they only isolate one particular behavior to one group of people about one particular thing. And that should make people ask questions. Go ahead, Rashad. My bad.
No, you good, and I'm glad you added that in there. Matter of fact, and I'm pretty sure you heard about this. It's called drug ballads or narco cart. I can't pronounce it in Spanish, but where they make specific music praising the cartels and all the crimes and murders that they do. They don't say, well,
Yes.
that's Spanish culture, so that's why they're bad. No, they try to ban that music and say, well, you shouldn't listen to it. But they try to make they don't make that the voice of Spanish music, but they try to do that with black music. And to sum up, this will be my last point. When we look at white music, they got gore, they got death metal, they got black metal, they got all these degenerate forms of music that has been linked to crimes, linked to people being sacrificed and killed, and all these other stuff. But you do not hear white society saying that is the image of white music. But yeah, I end it with that.
I appreciate that, Rashad, because, and I'm gonna get to you next speaker. I appreciate that, Rashad, because today a man named Theodore Kaczynski died, Ted Kaczynski, and those of us raised in the 80s and 90s remember this guy because he scared the shit out of us. He was called the Unabomber, and the Unabomber was a guy that basically would just randomly blow shit up around America, and then it would be like a year or two would go by, you wouldn't hear from him. Then you'd be watching like Dateline or some shit, and they had a picture of some guy in a hoodie with aviator sunglasses on and a Michael Jackson Jerry curl. And they were saying, this is the guy that we suspect is the Unabomber. And then things get quiet, then boom, out of nowhere, a building to blow up, and then it'll be attached to the Unabomber. So all throughout the 80s, Americans were looking over their shoulder and wondering if we walked into some kind of a federal building or some kind of government building or whatever, is the Unabomber going to strike? Nobody asked if the Unabomber listened to outlaw country. There's a whole genre called outlaw country. And by the name, you know what it's about. It's a whole genre of country music, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, and these people who are household names. When you look at some of the people, what was that white boy name that had that racist that had the NFL song, the Monday Night Football song? I forgot his name. The white boy who had that Monday Night Football song, who they caught being racist and they kicked off and he came back on. He did music in outlaw country. It was basically a form of genre, as a genre, not was, it still is around. But it was at its most popular in the 70s and the 80s, and it was about basically white folks robbing banks, having bar fights, and doing all kind of outlaw shit. They never blamed Theodore Kaczynski's Unabombing desires and application to outlaw country. That's something to think about. Next is Kendo Sampson.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty, so I'm more of a younger guy. I don't know if y'all can tell with my voice and my picture and stuff like that. So, but I kind of like the old head stuff. I like Nas. I like me some Jay-Z. I like me some Biggie, Tupac here and there. I feel like though, from when I'm listening to that stuff, I feel like it's more of a. I feel like earlier rap was more supposed to be more like like an art form. Like we see these things and sorry, we witness these things and we've been through these things. So instead of getting angry and wanting to do it even more, I believe they put it in music form. Now today, I believe people try to do the same thing, but now they're weaponizing what we are using as a form of poetry or a form of artwork, and now they're using it because these kids, they're very impressionable today, and you see the difference between back then and now. A lot of these rappers today, they're rapping and stuff like that, and they actually are out here catching bodies. Like you got guys like Lil Durk, he has bodies. You got Young Boy, they saying he's catching bodies. When back in the day, you didn't really hear about that stuff too much often.
I'm glad you spoke up, young man. How old are
I'm
you?
24, but I
Okay, cool.
I love all types of music,
You're
man.
that. I want you to hear this real quick. You're that perfect age group because I'm 42, and you're very observant. Let me put you up on some game. The people my age and older, they're always going to make it seem like your generation is that much different than theirs.
Right.
They're always going to make your generation seem like it's that much worse than theirs. Let me tell you the truth. When I was your age, so by the time I'm your age, 24, I'm coming up when Jay-Z's on top. We're talking about the 2000s.
Right.
We're talking about the Jay-Z, 50 Cent, Kanye era. With Common, and you had that, and then you had the 50 Cent, and then you had on the West Coast at the time. That's when the Game was coming up, and Exhibit, and they're the generation after Snoop and Pop, the generation after Nas. You know what I mean? They're the next generation.
Right.
So during those years when I was your age, I was hearing when this is like when Lil Wayne coming out. Lil Wayne's just he just left the Hot Boys, and I'm matter of fact, I know the Bloods that jumped Lil Wayne onto the set. You know what I mean? I know that. And in New Orleans, so that has to do with some people who played basketball for the New Orleans Hornets at the time. Lil Wayne being a young impressionable kid trying to get
Right.
up. Anyway, what they were saying about that generation of rap was they're more degenerate, they cared less, and you actually have people out there putting in work. 50 Cent got shot 5, 9 times, whatever. And that was all in the myth of 50 Cent. He's somebody who did this, who was part of it. And they, in my generation, was more impressionable than the previous generation. That's what they were saying back then. You know what they were saying back in 92?
What's up?
See, back in 92, that's when Ice Cube was dropping Lethal Injection. I mean, the Predator album. That's when you have all kinds of music out. You get gangster rappers getting real hot. That's when you're talking about Dr. Dre dropping the Chronic. That's when a lot of this stuff is coming out. And you know what they're telling us? They're saying this music is degenerate, it's bad, it's not good for us because this generation is more impressionable than the last generation. And now that I'm 42, I'm around my third decade of observing this thing that keeps coming up. And my conclusion is, as people get older, they forget what it was like when they were younger. Music has always had an impression, and when it comes to rap from day one, just like the blues, just like jazz before it, just like anything that Black people create. The first decade, 2 decades, Black people create something, it becomes the worst thing ever. And they only highlight the negative aspects of it. Back in 91, 92, there was a lady named C. Dolores Tucker. She was going to Congress trying to get rap banned from the radio, a Black woman. And she was working with Al Sharpton and these same dickheads you see that are out today, Jesse Jackson. She was working with them to get rap banned. At the same time she was trying to get rap banned, my generation was saying, we're like, hold on. We got Outcasts out there. They ain't violent. We got this is before Common was around. We got wasn't white boy, wasn't dude, not white boy, was to the east, my brother to the X Clan. We had all of these different groups, and you had Too Short on one song. Too Short to talk about pimping. On the next song, Too Short talking about the ghetto and saving black lives. So all of that has always existed. But when your C. Dolores Tuckers are around, when your people are around to try to shit on black music, they talk about how young, dumb, and impressionable the youth are, and they only highlight the most negative aspects of black culture. What I'm saying this here is to you as a 24-year-old, your generation, you guys are smart, you guys are intelligent, and part of the reason why you guys are so resistant to adults like me and olders is because we haven't provided you shit that you can come into and be proud of. We ain't left shit for y'all. So there's something inherently about your generation and the younger generation that is not going to enlist to a group of people who didn't do shit for you. All I have to say is this: y'all ain't more stupid. Y'all ain't any more impressionable than my generation was, and the previous generation, and the generation before that. Let me give you an example. Smokey Robinson spent the whole 60s talking about love, getting married, and we spent the whole Earth and Fire spent the whole 70s talking about metaphysics. Parliament spent the 70s talking about astronomy and spaceships. And let me tell you something, how did that turn out? Niggas still got divorced. Niggas still ain't metaphysicians. So how impressionable are we really when it comes to the music? When the music was good, the hood wasn't shit. When the music got bad, the hood still wasn't shit. So don't let these fools go around and tell you that your generation is any worse or any, or it's any worse off than that. It's bad. We do need to clean up some of the music. We do. I'm not saying I don't support that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, the music's always only going to reflect the times. NWA was only able to come out because here in LA, I was in LA when the NWA dropped. We were literally seeing LAPD run tanks through Aunt Carolyn's front door, mistaking her front door for the drug house next door. So NWA had to come out with what they came out with. Now, 30 years later, it's seen as message music, but at the time, that was considered the worst thing to ever happen in America. Question: was NWA's music the worst thing to happen, or was it the conditions that caused them to write that music?
The conditions.
That's what you got. That's what you got to ask yourself. Right?
All right. Nah, I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah. And my generation needs to do a better job of talking to your generation, because your generation, you guys just need some knowledge. The same way I needed knowledge at 24, you need knowledge at 24. Same way at 42, I still need wisdom and guidance from those in their 60s and their 70s. Black culture got to get back to talking to each other, because as long as older black people shit on your generation, only thing that's gonna happen is y'all gonna get mad at us, and then these Asians and these Latinos and these white folks gonna see this generational rift between old and young, and they gonna come capitalize on our music the same way they did with the blues and everything else. All right, so keep it up, young man.
Yes, sir. And you're Dwan B, right? Yeah, I hear Tariq talking about you all the time, man. I'm definitely gonna try to join more of these once you have them, man. I do appreciate you. It's good speaking to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I wasn't even looking at my phone. I got Sincere down there. I'm gonna get back to you, Ruben and Rashad, but I got Sincere over here. I want to hear what Sincere got to say. Then I'm gonna get back to you, Ruben and Rashad. Go ahead, Sincere.
Peace. What's going on, Dwan B?
What's up, brother?
Peace to the room. Peace to the family. Yeah, man. I ain't been on here that long. I came in at the middle of when the young man was speaking, but everything that you said in response to what he was saying, I co-sign wholeheartedly, man. You was echoing my sentiments. You know what I mean? I'm a little bit older than Dwan, I'm 44. You know what I'm saying? So I was around for all of that. I heard all of that same shit growing up. You know what I mean? And plus I study history. And so I see how they flip it every generation. Whenever the culture shift and the youth got a little twist on whatever the OGs was already doing anyway, the OGs don't like the twist or whatever, or they feel slighted. I don't know what it is, because your time is over, and you know what I mean? It ain't time for you to get to shine no more. Then you start shitting on the younger generation, and that creates that generational gap that the system is able to just take advantage of. They're able to exploit that. You know what I'm saying? And run us against each other. And that way we never build. There's no intergenerational knowledge being passed on. You know what I mean? The codes of conduct and all of that stuff, it's never being passed on. Each generation got to start from scratch and figure it out on their own, because they can't trust the older generation, because there's no respect there. You know what I'm saying? And so we got to keep those lines of communication open. We got to be able to understand one another. You know what I mean? That's why I'm grateful for at the age that I am. I have a son that is in his late 20s now. I have a son that's 19, two teenagers under that, and I have a 7-year-old. And so in order for me to parent them effectively, I have to be able to tap into the frequency that they on. You know what I'm saying? Each one of them. And so that's my day-to-day thing. You know what I'm saying? Transforming throughout these different frequencies just in order to relate to my own children. And then on top of that, being a barber, I come across a lot of the youth every single day also. You know what I'm saying? I watch kids go from sitting in the booster chair to, you know what I mean, going to college and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So me, I always try to stay connected. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gotta try to fit in, but you gotta be able to tap in, you know what I'm saying, with the youth and the energy that they bring in. You know what I'm saying? Because it ain't all bad. There's always going to be some foul shit, no matter what generation you look at. It's always going to be some foul shit, especially when we
Real
don't we
talk.
don't control the media. You know what I'm saying? We don't control the platforms that get to say who gets the most shine and all that. So our enemy is the one that's in control of all of that. So of course they're going to take the worst of the worst and give that all of the shine. You know what I'm saying? But in the age that we living in now, we don't have that excuse because we're not susceptible to what they give us. We have the ability,
Right.
we have the ability to seek out the higher vibrations, and it's there within the youth. Some of these young boys and some of these young sisters right now, they on some other shit. They beyond what my generation was bringing to the table. And you know,
Hey,
our
hey,
generation was heavy,
sincere.
Duane.
You know something I see? I've been going to jazz concerts since I was 18. You know what I mean, on my own. And I was always the youngest cat person in the room. It was always my 20-year-old ass and a whole bunch of people 40, 50 and up. Now that I'm 42, like I still like a lot of people that was at the concerts when I was a kid are either dying off or they at the age, and I see them aging every year at the Hollywood Bowl. When Hollywood Bowl season come around, I see them aging out from being out young and more viral and more, and then to when they get up until when they start coming to the concerts on walkers until they can't come no more.
Mm.
But I said that to say the Hollywood Bowl still sells out. LACMA Jazz. I would. It's 5 o'clock. I should be going to LACMA Jazz right now, Latin Jazz on the Brass right now. That's where I should be, but it's kind of gloomy right here. It might rain. Why am I saying all that? When I go to these shows now, who do I see? 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds. Jazz concerts are full of older Generation Z and I mean older millennials and younger, the oldest of Gen Z and the youngest of millennials. That's all you see at the jazz concert. I would say they comprise of 30 to 40% of the audiences now. When I'm listening to jazz, when I go see cats like Thundercat, people like
Mm-hmm.
Anderson Paak, people
Mm-hmm.
like Corey Henry, there's a whole
Mm-hmm.
Kamasi Washington. Kamasi Washington
All right.
is selling out the Hollywood motherfucking Bowl. He's gonna be there next Sunday. I'm gonna be there. This is millennials. We selling
Right.
out the Hollywood Bowl with jazz, nigga. The generation, when it comes to what do you call the baby boomers? The baby boomers are the ones who killed jazz. When the baby boomers came up, they got into Motown. The baby boomers ignored Dizzy Gillespie. The baby boomers ignored Miles Davis. That was their parents'
That was
generation
the hood
listening to them.
shit.
Yeah, and but see, the baby boomers, they were more into, and I don't blame them because Motown, 70s disco and funk, that was the greatest music on the planet. But a lot of our great jazz acts, like your Count Basie's, who were still alive at the time, your Miles Davises who were still alive at the time. It was the baby boomers, the main ones that's talking shit to us, the main ones that's talking shit to me and you and our generation. They were the ones that ignored a lot of our jazz and blues greats. They weren't in the BB King. The people who resurrected those careers was Gen X and millennials when we started hearing their music sampled in hip hop, when we started hearing their music in Spike Lee films and John Singleton films. We're the ones who erected Buddy Guy, who's taking his final tour this year, and I'll be at his show next month at the Hollywood Bowl. But what I'm saying is this. What I'm saying is this. Jazz is selling out more tickets than a lot of hip hop concerts now. And that's due to us, my generation and younger. So when people go around talking about hip hop is this and hip hop is that, it's no more to blame for our faults than jazz and positive music is to blame for our goods. When Earth and Fire was singing music like sing a song, music like September. September is about the fall equinox and the beginning of fall, and Sirius returning, the red, white, and blue, the stars. Earth and the Fire was putting us up on some highly metaphysical shit. Parliament Funkadelic, Swing Down, Sweet Chariot, Stop and Let Me Ride. That was about the mothership coming from Sirius to take us back to our mother planet Sirius. Dogon philosophy. Those were the two hottest bands at the time. So if Parliament and Funkadelic couldn't raise our vibration and consciousness to a point to where we're a highly evolved spiritual people, and we were listening to that music then, that means hip hop can't degrade us to a point that we're murderers. If either one's true or both are true, or it's something deeper than that. And my summarization is this: whatever's already in you spiritually, and whatever's in you, whatever's put in you through your environment, through your parents, through the TV you watch, because you listen to watching TV way before you listen to the music. You bought your first rap album at probably 13, 14 years old. You started seeing Bugs Bunny shoot niggas at 6 months. So my thing is this: the music is only going to tap into what's already in your consciousness, because we had the highest vibrational music of all time during the 70s, and we didn't do shit with it. So who are these people who had that good ass music that they didn't pass down to us? Who are they to talk shit about our music and point fingers at the kids because of what they like? My bad for that, Sincere. Go ahead, finish what you got to say, then I'm gonna get back to Ruben.
No, man, that was the perfect point that you made. You know what I'm saying? When you say, during those times when we had the greatest music with the highest vibrations, what was the results in the community? You know what I'm saying? That right there ends the
Indoor
entire argument, if you
philosophy,
ask
New
me.
York.
that that ends
Right
the
there.
question of the question of the room. That solves it. But I'm good, man. Appreciate you letting me speak.
Yes, sir. You go back to night. If you ask me, just being objective, and I'm a studier of music history, I think 1976 was the greatest year ever for music. Like everybody that came out of the album in '76 hit on some hot shit. From Steely Dan, goddamn it, to the Bee Gees was hot. Even the White Boys was hot in '76. '76 was when the Mothership Connection came. That's when Dr. Clones, the Clones of Funkenstein came out from Parliament. That's when One Nation came. No, One Nation came out in '78. '76 is when the Earth and Fire Spirit album dropped. That's when Songs in the Key of Life dropped. That's when Herbie Hancock had his best. I mean, '76 was to me vibrationally. You go listen to Songs in the Key of Life. That's God talking in that album. Go listen to Spirit by Earth and Fire. Born of the earth are nature's children, breath by the wind, the breath of life, touched by the fiery hands of God. That's the vibration of that album in 1976. You know what I mean? But 1976 was also when New York was having this broken window, when the windows was fucked up, when broken window philosophy was born, fix a window to clean the neighborhood. That philosophy had to be born because the hood and the ghettos were so downridden, downtrodden, degraded. Black people was fucked up in '76. We was really fucked up. At the same time, Stevie Wonder created a song, the first song on the Songs in the Key of Life album. I encourage everybody to download right now and go listen to Love's in Need of Love Today by Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder's telling you what's going on in 1976. Why did he have to create Love's in Need of Love? Because we were so fucked up as a people, we needed some love. You know what I mean? He had to create that because we was fucked up. Then you go back and listen on that same album. It's a song called Village Ghetto Land. Village Ghetto Land. He's telling you what the hood was looking like in 1976. If the music was a direct reflection of how our people are going to be, why weren't all our people living in what we now know as Ladera Heights, the best of black neighborhoods? If the music was reflective of what was going on, we have songs like from what's her name? Gladys Knight and the Pips. Make Yours a Happy Home. Songs that's about complete love. So in Love with You by Curtis Mayfield. I mean, we had some of the greatest love ever preached on that in that year and during that era. And we was fucked up. So to go around and blame our fucked up shit on hip hop, you part of the problem. I'm gonna go so far as to say that. You part of the problem. Because you telling me to cut the grass, you telling me to cut the weeds and not root it out. Go ahead, Ruben.
Oh, actually, Rashad had his hand up first. So I'll let him go. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Appreciate it, Ruben. And I just thought about this, especially when it comes to hip hop. We a lot of or these record companies, we're not controlling them, and we already know that they specifically go out of their way to find the most degenerate, disrespectful people to black culture to prop up and say this is the people y'all need to listen to. And then on top of that, when it comes to black music, if we want to be honest, a lot of these people who are, when we do have people in hip hop who committing crimes, whether it's shooting, whether it's anything like that, it's not like these are people who got into hip hop and then start being gangsters. These are gangsters that got into hip hop. So they're just transferring the things that they already was doing in the streets, just putting it on wax. So my thing is this: I don't like to say that hip hop is the issue. I just see that hip hop is just an expression of already what's going on in certain pockets of black society due to white supremacy. So I say all that to say, like, it comes back to white supremacy. What's going on in hip hop is specifically designed to be in this situation.
Hey, that's real talk because it is reflective. Because let's just tell the truth, music has always been street. Music is a street, hood, hustling, thug business. Louis Armstrong was controlled by the mafia. They took 50% of all of his live earnings, and that was considered a good contract because other artists were getting 75% of their live music taken. Frank Sinatra. I was talking about this is my if y'all been watching my Twitter thread all day, I've been talking about Frank Sinatra and how synonymous Frank Sinatra was with ghetto hood society because Sinatra was somebody that it was very open that he was mob tied and mob connected. Matter of fact, it was a cloud that hung over his whole career. Frank Sinatra died with the hood of being mafia connected and never and spent a lifetime trying to shake that label. And you can find that watching his own documentaries. In his words, you can hear that. I was Motown. Motown was hood. The reason why Motown left Detroit was because the mafia wanted a piece of it. So they had to get their asses to LA where the mafia didn't control something because the mafia out here in LA is the LAPD. And the LAPD ain't tripping on shit like music. That's why that's why Motown had to basically leave Detroit in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? Because when you look at Anita Baker, do people know that Anita Baker's demo was funded by Rick Ross? The real Rick Ross, yeah. While he was out there getting $1 million a day from the drugs, he funded Anita Baker's demo. We wouldn't have Anita Baker's Street Sweet Love without Rick Ross's money. So music has always been street connected. Jelly Roll Morton, when he came out here from New Orleans to LA to establish the West Coast jazz scene, he was a pimp. He had a bar, or you can still go to it now, on 11th and Central. For those of you who are from LA, y'all know about where you get your sound system hooked up on 11th Street. If you're not from it, if you are in LA, you don't know about it. If you need anything, any kind of sound system from your car, go to the Mexicans on 11th and Central. That whole block, you're gonna get a whole new sound system in your shit for a third of the price of Best Buy. Anyway, on that corner, it's a shop and it's a motel upstairs. Well, downstairs is where West Coast Jazz got created, and upstairs is where Jelly Roll Morton pimped because he came to New Orleans, to LA from New Orleans with 6 of his hoes, and he pimped along the side. Matter of fact, because he learned how to play the piano when, as an 8-year-old, he used to look through a peephole in a whorehouse and play his piano to the rhythm of the stroke, and that's how Jelly Roll Morton became a pianist as an 8-year-old working in a brothel. So music has always been hood and street. So let's not act like it's just been this pure innocent thing. What's his name? Joe Tex got a whole song about wanting to beat James Brown's ass for taking his girl. Like, let's not act like that. Like it's stories of Jackie Wilson getting hung over the balcony trying to renegotiate his contract. I mean, all this shit is hood. So music is always going to reflect the environment it's in. You can only create from what you either personally experience or vicariously experience through someone else. Like the fake Rick Ross, the rapper. We all know he wasn't shit. That nigga was a correctional officer. He wasn't no fucking drug dealer. But he's a vicarious rapper. It's like Snoop was a vicarious rapper. Easy E was the real deal. But Easy E didn't know how to write music. So a vicarious rapper like Ice Cube, who observed what was going on, Ice Cube was able to write lyrics in the song Boys in the Hood for Easy E Eazy-E really did live that lifestyle, but he wasn't a lyricist. He didn't know how to write his own words. Because music is an illusion. Music is a collective process. And through this collective process of personal and vicarious experience is how the music is born. So if you have an issue with what's in the music, you must change what's in the personal and collective experience of the artist. And that's what people got to understand if they want to start talking about music. Before you go around pointing your fingers at artists, you have to look at the environment. Because a tree can only grow in an environment with wind, rain, and soil. Trees cannot grow on sand. So if you want to change the environment for trees to grow, put the right goddamn environment around it. You want to change music, put the right environment around our artists. Go ahead, Ruben.
Yeah, I just had like a couple quick points. Yeah, to your point, just about like old school music. I mean, the Payback by James Brown. That's about wanting to beat a nigga because he took his girl. So that I don't know karate, but I know
Right.
crazy. Like he's saying he want to fight a nigga. So, and then
Yeah.
even more so, just back to the question about is hip hop to blame for violence? One of the first conscious songs is The Message, and that song was about the violence and everything that's happening in the community. So how could hip hop be to blame for that when hip hop was brand new by the time that song came out, and that was speaking on the conditions of the neighborhood, of the community. So you can't say that hip hop is to blame for that. And even more so, like we lost my last point, we lost Takeoff in last November. He got shot unfortunately at a dice game, and I remember everybody then was like, oh, it's hip hop, it's rap lyrics. I'm like, no, it's a dice game. When niggas got money and guns and money's being lost and dice,
Nigga.
a nigga gonna get shot. That's just what it is. I mean, and even more so, niggas have died at dice games going back to juke joint days when jazz was hot and popping. So is jazz to blame for when they was dying at dice games back in those times? It's like to put everything on hip hop to me is just a very disingenuous argument. And to me, it's low key kind of like it's like a black on black crime
It's
kind of excuse. Like the white people don't
it's
respect
niggas
us
quoting white.
until we get rid of hip
It's
hop.
niggas quoting white thoughts. It's niggas quoting
Yeah,
white thoughts. That's what it is.
exactly.
And
And you
my
right
thing
about
is,
that.
oh my bad.
Go
My
ahead,
thing
Rashad. Go
is,
ahead.
what I was like, who are the alt right and these neo Nazis listening to? They not sliding through the streets listening to no Lil Durk. They not listening to no Lil Baby or the Baby. I was like, they're listening to the people who like Kid Rock, even though we know he trash. All these, they're listening to these individuals. So the idea that these people who be committing these heinous crimes against black society, they're not, what music are they listening to, and why aren't we demonizing that instead of just focusing on hip-hop? Because as we know, hip-hop, the people who create hip-hop, they not going around harassing people or trying to cause issues with white society or anything like that. 9 times out of 10, it's on a small pocket, and it's usually, we all know who the group is who's usually causing the issues. Why aren't we focusing on the people who are harming black people and black or society as a whole, the white supremacists, and what music they listen to, if we want to go down that route?
Because niggas is scared. Because it's, at the end of the day, it's like we'll go back to like even what Ruben was talking about when it comes to what's in the music and it echoing, what's around us. Music has always had these elements. You know what I mean? Because it's profound and profane. That's just what it is. Life is profound and profane. And so when it comes to these different artists that are out there, Ruben, you had made something. It was your second point. What was that second point you made, Ruben? Real quick, it was something I wanted to say. That second point that you made.
Which one? Was it about Takeoff dying?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the dice. That's what it was. Take off the dice game.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Dice games. Because I remember you. I remember you putting that on Facebook. When Takeoff died, like, and we both kind of had similar approaches. I'm thinking like, it's just the dice. Because I remember as a kid walking down the street, if I saw niggas at the end of the block shooting dice, you know what I did? I crossed the street, and if I couldn't cross the street, like if I'm walking down block to block, and I can, when I was on the east side, 58th and Broadway, we sometimes go down to the Boys Market on 54th and Main Street. So when we were walking down Broadway, I could make a right, 57th on 56th, 55th, and when I would walk down the street and I would look down 57th, if I saw them shooting dice, I would keep walking to the next block. Okay, ain't nobody on that block. Because the hood is like that. The hood in LA, every other block, it's like every block don't be fucked up. It'd be like 2 fucked up blocks and 3 good blocks, That's how it be. So we always do on 57th. Them niggas be shooting dice at multiple times a day. So we wouldn't even go down that street because at dice games people get fucked up. And them niggas, I'll never forget. One time it was a shooting that happened over on 58th and Main Street where I was. You know who they was bumping on the block? This song. Every time I hear this song to this day, it reminds me of a drive-by that happened at the end of the block. They was listening to Shirley Murdoch. It's morning. Because back in the 80s, let me tell you why. This is when sound systems was new. So anybody who had a sound system, you was bumping that because it bumped the truck. So everybody who had a sound system played Shirley Murdoch As We Lay. So I remember niggas was playing As We Lay on the block.
That's funny.
And then all I hear is niggas getting shot up by Tech Nines. And the song that was playing when that happened was Shirley Murdoch, As We Lay.
Wow.
Because that was a sound system knocker in 1987. So people always want to connect stuff to the music because that's what white people train them to do. And that's the long and short.
Also, too, niggas forget the opening scene of Harlem Nights is a dice game where a little quick shot the dude. That was a dice game set in the 1910s in Harlem. So that clearly shows that niggas been getting shot at dice games a long time. That's not rap music.
My memories of growing up in South Central LA, and my cousin Stanley lived in Compton off Alondra and Castlegate. Niggas know with that block Castlegate. That block rings a bell to people who know anything about Compton. My cousin Stanley lived between Alondra, and I think that was Greenleaf. No, Greenleaf was further down. But he lived on Castlegate. And my childhood memories of going over there every 4th of July, you know what was playing? Cameo. Word Up. That, like, Anita Baker. Like, you heard, yes, people was playing rap. Yes, niggas was playing NWA. Niggas was playing Arabian Prince. They was playing that too. But people act like it was only just rap. No, music didn't become exclusively rap until the 2000s. And that's because the white folks bought up all the black-owned rap labels. They bought up Uptown Records. They bought Death Row. They bought, and they started. They bought all the R&B stuff. They bought all of the Face. And they started. And for those of you who want to know more about it, I have a YouTube show, 2 episodes dedicated directly to how R&B was defunded to push hip hop. But before R&B was defunded, niggas would listen to Dr. Dre, but as soon as Dr. Dre went off, niggas would turn to listen to Anita Baker or Tony Braxton. Like, black people would listen to, as long as it was given to us all, we would listen to it all. Niggas used to turn off. Niggas wasn't debating about top 5 in 1992. Niggas would talk about who their favorite rapper was, and they'd go around talking about which one you gonna fuck out of Evo. Niggas, that's what niggas talk more about back then. Matter of fact, that was more conversation. Who would you fuck, TLC or SWV? Nah, nigga, I'm fucking Chili. Nah, nigga, you can't get with Chili, man. I got a T-Bars. Man, that bitch got a deep voice. We talked about, in the 90s, and fellas, holler if you hear me, fellas. In the 90s, in the 80s, there was more debate over about which one you was going to fuck out of En Vogue over who your top 5 was. So these things was going on when we still had Lionel Richie at the top of the charts. Let's tell the whole truth. I got a Negro Black Knights Heritage. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a Negro Black Knights Heritage Club. I'm an organization that deals with history, preserving Negro Black lineage and culture. I have a little problem with the title, and it's not in a disrespect. It's more like an education way. I think that rap is to blame for the violence in the black community per se, not hip hop. Hip hop is a creation that breathes life. It educates our people about our culture, our heritage, and stuff of that nature. So I wouldn't put hip hop in that category, but rap, I would kind of consider that more of a distinction of white supremacy that devalues the black experience in the black community. So I would
from a rap. Does rap like
no, I would point I'll point to a Lil Wayne. I'll point to the current Rick Ross, the rapper. They're talking about selling drugs. They're talking about doing legal crime, stuff that we shouldn't be doing. While hip hop, I will point to more like a Nas per se. He's talking about the culture and the experience. Yeah, he might talk about some of the criminal elements, but he also supports it with stories, allegories, and stuff of that nature. So
Question.
there is.
Let's go back to Rick Ross and Lil Wayne. So is them talking about a lifestyle that existed before they were born the problem, or the culture that creates that lifestyle to exist?
It's more like I look at them more like a minstrel show per se, like no different from. I'm talking about the.
I want to hear you. I do want to hear what you have to say. I just want you to answer my question real quick. Are you answer my question? After you answer my question, I'll let you go ahead and say what you have to say. So, is the problem Lil Wayne and Rick Ross talking about selling drugs, or is the problem the environment that allows tax-paying citizens of children whose parents pay tax in this country? Is the environment the issue that forces them to sell drugs because those jobs were outsourced to China into the prison industrial complex? Or is it these people talking about having to go that route to make a living for themselves? What's more dangerous?
I'm going to say they're both are dangerous. Because I look at them.
What's more dangerous? Well,
it's not that they're more dangerous, because you could point to Professor Griff, where he talks about these elements, and due to the fact of the prison industrial complex, which you have mentioned, that these individuals have met behind a closed room to say that they're going to push this music so that they can fuel that type of situation.
But question,
so that's why I point.
Time, you're a historian, so time matters. That thing that Professor Griff talked about, that meeting, that was the late 80s, early 90s. Well, drugs had been an issue illegally in America. It became a big issue after Prohibition in the 30s, when you get into the 40s with the heroin things. But then really when you get to the 80s, you had the heroin dealers in the 70s. But then we get to the 80s, and we know that Ali North talked about, them needing the drugs to fuel the Iran-Contra. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is something that Oliver North admitted to. And we have dozens and dozens of books on crack being created at UCLA, distributed in Berkeley, and then brought down to Los Angeles, California to be distributed in the early 80s. This is before the meeting about rap. This is the environment that was going on when Rick Ross was making $1 million a day. Rap was a blip on the radar when it came to music sales. The majority of music sales was Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson at that time. So the question still remains, what's the problem? Because drugs blew up, drugs exploded in the 80s before rap became the kind of music that it later on become. Before NWA came into existence, the environment, you have people making $1 million a day selling drugs. So the question now comes back, and we have to answer this question, because that's the only way we can logically move on. It's like algebra. You can only logically move on to the next step when you solve the first step. So we have to solve this first step before we move on to the next problem. Is it the environment that was created because Rick Ross was able to sell these drugs? Because here in LA, there's a street called Alameda, there's a street called Santa Fe, where you had over 10 square miles of just industrial jobs that existed in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that those jobs were then taken by the government and shipped off to China, Taiwan, and Singapore, and put into the prison industrial complex. All of these moves were made before the Professor Griff interview, where he talks about the meeting in the room about pushing rap music. All of these chess moves were made before that. So now you have a generation that's now in the 80s, graduated high school with a high school diploma with no job that's available to them that they thought was going to be in existence. So now they have a choice. How are they going to feed their families? There are 100 people here, but only enough jobs for 60. How are the 40 going to feed their families? Some are going to hustle legally, some are going to hustle illegally. So for those who hustle illegally, that now becomes an experience that goes into the writing of their music. And 2 or 3 years after this environment was created, now you have an NWA talking about an environment that existed, that they grew up in, that they either personally experienced Eazy-E or vicariously experienced Ice Cube. So the question remains, what's the problem? the lyrical expression of the environment or the environment itself?
Brother, you also had groups like Public Enemy, which I put
Can
in
you
the comment
answer my question, please?
because you're being kind of, it's the policies of the government that created the environment for those situations. It was government intervention that dumped drugs on our block, respectfully, from a historical perspective, sir. And I find it a little disingenuous that you'll blame hip hop when one could say it's rap, that it's the culprit, that it's the fuel
Hold
that
on,
is
hold on. We're not
killing
not
our community.
we're not going to major in the minors. We're not going to major in the minors. Hip hop, rap. Those we all know that those words are used interchangeably. I know
There is
the
a
difference.
difference, though, sir.
I
You
know
mean
that
you
there's
know
a
that?
difference. I know that there's a difference, and if you check my YouTube program out, I have more than 6 hours of content explaining the difference. But I'm also someone who understands rhetoric and understands conversation. We have to use words that people commonly accept as the thing. So to make it clear, hip hop, rap are being used interchangeably because that's the common perception in the popular society in America amongst the 85%. Okay,
But
so
respectfully,
we can get
I would
past that.
understood that. I respectfully understood that if you would have that in your title, but it's not. You're targeting hip hop, which is the positive aspect of that, and that's
I
where it
assume
becomes.
intelligence. I assume intelligence. Sometimes I'm wrong. I'm sorry that I was wrong with you. I assume people are intelligent enough to break down the difference. I don't I don't think people are stupid. I assume intelligence for everyone. So that's me just going with what. So now that it's commonly understood, I don't want to say needle on that point. Now that it's understood that hip hop and rap are being used interchangeably, can you please go on with your comment?
It kind of dilutes the point that I would be getting at and stuff of that nature because there is a nuance and a difference. So I would like to say thank you for your space respectfully, and I have to decline. So you have a blessed day, my man.
Thank you. I guess Rashad walked away.
Oh no, I'm here. No, my bad.
Go ahead.
No, I was just here just the idea that we start blaming or we put the blame on the music instead of the institution that created the issues. That's where my issue lies at. And then even when it comes to it, like the wrapping of drugs and such like that, let's be clear. Our community isn't the only one who gets entertainment off of the things that happen in the streets. Like how many movies are out there, TV series are out there of the mafia, the Italians, and all the things they did in the streets? I lost count on how many movies are out there, but nobody is saying anything or having any issues on that. Matter of fact, every community glorifies, if we want to be honest, they glorify their street aspect. They just like the Hell's Angels. They got paraphernalia and all of that. They got movies about biker gangs and all this different stuff. They got series on it. So the idea that we're just going to target in and be like, black people are bad because they're making rap and hip hop, which we know people usually
Yeah,
use
you're right
them
about that.
interchangeably. Yeah, they
Yeah.
use
So let me go. I appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm going to go with what Rashad said, but going back to what I need time to collect my thoughts about the previous speaker and how that's for people out there when we're having these discussions. Don't allow people to take the discussions off into another direction over minor details. Okay, that's usually what happens. Red herrings are the way people move when it comes to discussions, especially when they have a problem with what you're saying. If you're making an argument that's tight, that's not full of fallacy, using logical and drawing an historical point of view and different perspective, those who disagree are going to come around with a minor detail and shift the focus of the conversation from that minor detail from the conversation. It's like basketball. When we playing basketball, we play as a team, not coach basketball. When a player gets caught into one-on-one matchups and their personal stats, I have to get 68 points and 17 rebounds and 2,000 assists. When a player diverges from the team perspective to their personal stat, the team generally loses. Same in music. When as a band, we're playing and we in pocket drums, bass, keys, horns, singers, backgrounds. If somebody, if the guitarist, while the singer is singing the chorus, if the guitarist decides to go ahead and pull off a Jimi Hendrix solo in the middle of the singer singing the chorus, it's gonna fuck the song up. That's what it's like when people come around and they have their minor issues, their minor personal pet peeves, and they introduce that to the discussion, and they try to get the discussion taken off into their personal pet peeve, their personal detail, their personal issue, diverging from the point that was discussed. That's no different than a guitar player soloing through the lead singer's chorus. That's no different than a basketball player looking out for their personal stats instead of the well-being of the team. It makes the whole team lose. It makes the whole discussion go off in a way that it shouldn't go off. So when people are coming around talking like in these Twitter spaces and stuff, and they want to needle in on shit like that, man, make them niggas kick rocks. And to what like Rashad said, when it comes down to the music, when it comes down to different kinds of people, when it comes to different kinds of stuff that's out there, man, look, when it comes to violence, they see other people, they're violent people, they get sort of a good point of view. Like the white revolutionary, like the Charles Bronson, Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry kind of guy. That was a shitty racist ass cop. Law enforcement that got glorified throughout the 70s. You know what I mean? It got glorified, the Hells Angels. Biker gloves are now seen as cool. Hells Angels, according to a LAPD officer I know, personal LAPD officer I know who's in a biker gang, not biker gang, he's a biker. He said, yeah, the white biker gangs, the LAPD cats got to get clearance from the Ventura version of the Hells Angels when they want to go riding their bikes up Highway 101 to get through to Santa Barbara. They got to speak to the Hells Angels. This is white LAPD officers that got to speak to the Hells Angels. You know what I mean? When it comes to, they get movies like The Departed, or that glorified that racist ass snitch that was a mobster that turned snitch. They get movies like that. When you listen to some of these the Gambino people, when they interview, they talk about how hellish those times were. Man, America glorified gangster shit. Gangster shit all the way around in this country. Hell, this country glorifies look at the presidents. Look at George Washington. That's a gangster motherfucker right there. Come on now. McKinley. Come on, you ever look up Woodrow Wilson? This motherfucker walked into Haiti and stole all their gold and said, "What you gonna do about it, bitch?" Talk about some fucking gangster. This is a gangster ass society. Y'all want to pin everything on a few black people with an ink pen, writing down what they see going on around them. Fuck out my face. Go ahead, Charles Tucker.
Hey, what's up, Dwan B? I appreciate the space, but yeah, I was gonna say the same thing because violence is actually driven by negative emotions like anger and fear, right? So when people are rapping, I've been to plenty of rap battles and I've been to plenty of concerts and shit. Ain't nobody in there trying to kill nobody or trying to, go into nobody's house and like burn it down. Like ain't nobody trying to do nothing violent. People are actually having a good time. And that's why people, who were born in like the 50s and the 60s, those people, they if they go anywhere, they have a really great time. It's like, the only the people you have issues with now is like you know these kind of like 18, 17 year olds, even some 10-year olds, because they toting guns now, so you can't even like have like little parties like how we used to have, in the early 2000s, like a teen party. Now you have a teen party, somebody might shoot that Jane up. So I appreciate the you giving me an opportunity to speak, and that's all I'm gonna say right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Charles. But let me tell you, let me tell you one thing real quick, Charles. House parties always got shot. You dig? Don't make it seem like it started with y'all generation. Now, I remember when I was a kid at the '90s and the '80s, and I remember back in the '90s, going to house parties, but house parties getting shot up back then too. I remember as a kid in the '80s, when niggas was listening to Kid Play, the most fun rap, Kid playing Fresh Prince. House parties get shot up. So I always tell people your generation, don't let these niggas my age older make y'all think y'all any more violent or any more worse off than we are. Niggas my age wasn't shit. So don't go around, thinking it's something against y'all. Niggas wasn't shit then either. Go ahead, second pieces.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Dwan. Hey, everybody. I hope my question doesn't stray too far from your question, sir. But I wanted to know, why do you think the music industrial complex, if I can call it that, why do you think that they have prolonged hip hop to last for these 50 or so years, when traditionally or historically with our native Black American music, we've created genres or subgenres within like 10 or so years, like, for example, Dixieland jazz to swing to bebop. I think, if I'm correct, these genres, naturally sprung out from us every 10 years or so, even with Delta blues to the Chicago electronic blues with the electronic guitar. So I just have an issue, I guess, with this I'm not against hip hop, but it's just interesting that it's been. Oh, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
No, you just asked the perfect question. I just followed you back. That was like perfect. I'm kind of like rushing to answer your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes,
that was the
thanks.
perfect question. I'm so glad I got that question. I'm so glad I got that question. Michael Warden, please, I hope you're recording this so you put it up on my YouTube. She asked the perfect question. Why has hip hop been allowed to last this long? Remember this. Disco and hip hop were born the same year, 1973. Disco's polygenesis here in LA with Barry White's Love Theme, and Philadelphia with the Sound of Philadelphia by Gamblin' Huff. Earl Young on drums, providing the pulsating 4/4, 4 on the floor, snare upbeat on a hi-hat sound that now permeates through electronic dance music, the house, the techno, world beat, and all of these electronic forms of music. So disco is still alive, but like to her point, it was basically killed off in its natural form. It still exists through these alternative forms and not given its proper credit and context as subgenres of disco. But disco was killed off because disco really brought us all together. Disco was free loving. Disco opened the spirit. So why did funk get killed off? Because funk, we was using funk to transmit messages like free your mind and your ass to follow. We was using funk to transmit messages like Steve Arrington, nobody can be you but you. We was using funk, and they killed that off. So why have they allowed hip hop to stay alive? Because when you listen to hip hop rap, there's a paradox with this form of music. It's the most sophisticated, yet absolutely most simple form of music we ever created. Sophisticated in the fact that lyrically you can say more in a rap hip hop song than you can in an R&B song, and the ability to freestyle and at that tempo, at that rate, and transmit messages is otherworldly. But if you notice, that style of profound rapper has also been killed off in the same way disco and funk has. They don't introduce new Nas's. Kendrick Lamar snuck through. You know what I mean? When it comes to the mainstream. When it comes to the mainstream, they don't give us any more Outcasts. They don't give us the style of rapper when rap is at its highest form. They don't allow that style of rapper has been killed off the same way funk was killed off, the same way Dixieland jazz was killed off, the same way bebop was killed off. Because it's too sophisticated for other people to reach. Now, the lower vibration of hip hop rap is the most simple, easiest form of music to create. Why? Because you don't have to do anything. You just sample. You just other people resolve those chords for you. All of the skill that it takes to put a song together, resolving chords, the tempos, how to put in pocket, how to develop a pocket between the drums, the bass, and the keys. It used to require a talented producer to say, okay, this drummer, although this particular drummer is recorded on this many albums, for this song, I need that drummer. For this song, I need this horn arrangement. I need this horn arrangement. I need the honeycomb to sing background instead of, this song requires the andante to sing background. Now I got to write these lyrics out. I got to write these words out and these harmonies and these notes. for them to sing. And when they sing it, it got to sound right. Because what I wrote may not necessarily sound right when it comes out. And I got to use my music genius to resolve these chords and put these songs together. So that's what existed in our music in its highest form. With rap/hip hop, the producer don't have to make those decisions. So now basically anybody that has some kind of rhythm can produce a song because they can sample this horn, they can sample that bass, they can speed this thing up, and now they're considered a genius. You know what I mean? We as a people, we've allowed them to say Jay-Z's the greatest rapper when all he did was take words and lyrics from other songs and movies and put them into music that's sample. You know, when you listen to Girls, 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 that's nothing but I Want to Know Your Name by the Intruders. If you listen to that song by the Intruders, you see the exact inspiration for Girls, Girls, Girls. And then you go ahead and throw in a few Eddie Murphy lines. Why, baby girl, why you treat me like animal? You put it over Love Serenade by Barry White. You now have a hit. And so now that devolves into you can have somebody like a Cardi B because hip hop got slowly devolved through the 2000s where basically it became something that anybody can do. You add in auto tune, you add in, them no longer signing lyricists. They're now signing people who basically are punch rappers, say a bar at a time and get punched in, Cardi B, and make it very simple. Now the formula of the music is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that's literally all you got to do. And anybody can do it because it no longer requires music genius. That's what allowed hip hop to stay around. Because the people who really are the progenitors of hip hop at its highest level, the Black Americans, we're no longer on the charts. And we haven't been on the charts in about a decade now. If you pay attention, hip hop isn't even Black American anymore. It's immigrant. And it's allowed to stay around because it doesn't require the high standard of writing and producing the music. It doesn't require background singers. See, Warren G bragged about it, but we're fucked up with it now. What did Warren G say? Drums, key, bass, keys. We bring none of these. He bragged about it with G Funk, new style funk. We ain't gotta bring none of that technical music stuff. That was cool for 95. Now we've evolved to the point where now anybody in the world can put together this kind of music, kind of piece it together through samples. And that's why hip hop has been allowed to stay. The next form of music that Black people create is going to be something that isn't going to be able to be sampled. Because this whole sampling thing, and this is why I love AI music, AI is going to take all of these sampling fashions out because it's going to sample better than everybody. And people who are left stuck to this plastic music, they can have it. Because I guarantee you, there are Black children in the basement, in a garage somewhere right now, creating something new. And it's a new energy out there. When I see these people when they 16, in their 20s at these jazz concerts, they talking like us in this room. When I go to see Catalyst live here in LA, I'm gonna go see them next Friday at Lackman Jazz. Catalyst is a jazz band here in LA in their 30s and 40s out of Inglewood. Their audience is in their 20s. These young people are tired of this plastic shit. So it's something else going on. And I want to say this one other point. Remember this. The top 200, according to the LA Times, New York Times, look this up. I think it was printed last July or August. The top 200 only comprises of 5%, less than 5% of all music streams. Let me say that one more time. The top 200 only comprises of less than 5% of all music streams, according to Spotify, Tidal, iTunes. You know what accounts for 70% of music streams? Music made in the 70s and before. So with this bit of information, my source is the New York Times. You can go and look it up. With this bit of information, for those out there listening, we have to be our own cultural anthropologists. We can't allow them to spoon feed us data and information and conclusions. We have to be able to, as people, individuals, we have to be able to answer data for ourselves and conclude what we see from the data. The data shows, for those of you out into that shit, I don't like using that word too much, because usually people can't get the numbers, they're misleading you. But sometimes you gotta look at the numbers. When the numbers are grouped with an explanation and a story that makes sense, and then you go and look it up and draw your own conclusion. That's when the numbers matter. If Spotify, iTunes, and Tidal are saying that less than 5% of music streams is music out of the top 200s, while 70+% of the music streams is music from the 70s and before, what does that tell you? It tells you that the people aren't listening to what they're putting out. So the natural conclusion that I draw, I don't know what conclusion you guys draw. I'm gonna let you guys draw your own conclusion. But the conclusion that I draw is there are these massive conglomerate corporations with a whole lot of money to spend to throw these big ass smoke screens in front of our face to make us think that people actually care about Cardi B. I see these whale companies that we have to spend money with because Sony, they're not only controlling our music, they're controlling our movies, and they're also controlling the publications that write about the music and the movie. Most of your blogs that report on this stuff, most of your hip hop blogs and all these blogs, they were all, the independent blogs were all bought up back in 2014, 2015, 2016. All the major blogs we see is those folks. So they're the ones writing the story. They're the ones controlling the narrative and controlling the music. But if the LA Times and the New York Times tells me, and their source is Spotify directly, Apple directly, and Tidal directly, their streams say that only 5% of their streams are this music out of the top 200. That tells me, in my conclusion, that whatever Rolling Stone magazine, Vibe magazine, TMZ Hip Hop, or these publications say, most people aren't really into that. And then being someone who frequents jazz concerts basically monthly, I have 4 concerts I'm going to this month in jazz. And I see a bunch of young people out there, and I go to see Kamasi Washington next Sunday at the Hollywood Bowl, 18,000 seats or so to an event that Kamasi Washington is headlining as a jazz artist. I'm not saying he's the most listened to, but what I'm saying is somebody's lying to me because I see a bunch of people in their 20s out at these. Erykah Badu hasn't released an album since 2010. Erykah Badu still next Saturday is damn near sold out the Staples Center. Erykah Badu is selling out 20,000 seat venues, and she hasn't released an album in 13 years. And her audience is people in their 20s and 30s. Because Erykah Badu created the sound of love. You know what I mean? When I see people actually spending money to go see Thundercat and Anderson .Paak, that tells me that what the young people listen to is far more diverse than what the media is giving them credit for. That's my conclusion. My conclusion is I don't know the answer. I don't know the final answer, but I know whatever they're telling me isn't true. It can't be true if only 5% of music stream comprises of music out of the top 200. That tells me that people who are streaming music is listening to a little bit of everything, and they're not all focused on gangster rap and drill rap the way media is trying to make us seem. That's my conclusion. I don't know about if you guys draw this conclusion. That's on. I'm not here to say I'm the end all be all thought. Everybody can draw their own conclusion. You know what I mean? But my conclusion is it's bigger than they're making it seem as far as other styles of music being relevant. So I don't know if that makes sense to y'all, but to me, you know, is hip hop to blame for our problems? No, because and then when it comes to the what hip hop and rap is doing, the culture, who's pushing that culture? Who's pushing those images? Because I remember when I was a kid, when X Clan was on top, when Ice Cube was on top, they were still saying black music was degenerate music. When the hottest second album, selling album '91, the best album in '91 was Death Certificate, and that album was a prophecy. That album had a song called "Us," telling black people how sometimes we could be our own worst enemy when we shoot and kill each other. That was the message of Death Certificate. Summer Vacation. Look, if you deal these drugs, caught a fight to St. Louis. That's cool because nobody knew us. They talk about going to St. Louis and setting up the drug game, doing the same in Seattle. And then when the end of that song came, he said, Nigga, basically, I got locked up and put in prison. And that's why the song is called Summer Vacation. If you deal drugs, you're going to be put in prison. He had a song when he's talking about, putting the condoms on, you know, because the Look Who's Burning. I mean, a socially aware album. But when I was a kid listening to the news, all they said was hip hop was, and I had to listen to black people like Al Sharpton saying hip hop is degrading our community. But when I turned on Ice Cube, he was trying to fix our community. But he did it, and he dressed like a Jerry. He put the Jerry curl on, had the gangster attire, because he was trying to give us a deeper message. When Outkast was on top, and they was over here giving us Stankonia, when Outkast was dropping that Stankonia on us, they was trying to tell us that all hip hop is degenerate. When Will Smith was dropping Summertime, fucking barbecue anthem, all hip hop was bad. So they always gonna cherry pick and make whatever we seen bad. Same way they did with bebop, the same way they did. They outlawed weed because of jazz. They blamed Billie Holiday and fucking Louis Armstrong for weed raping for white men, black men smoking weed. And when black men smoke weed, they were more likely to rape white women. That was literally the propaganda of 1935, 36. And the first person ever arrested for a weed crime was Louis Armstrong on Sunset Boulevard, 1937. First person ever arrested for smoking weed in public. Was the greatest musician, the father of American music. The pinnacle of American music don't get any higher than Louis Armstrong. With all due respect, even Michael Jackson has to take a step down. If you're going to take a step down, because I don't even see things as a pyramid, I see it more as a plateau. But if you're going to go time and space, even Michael Jackson, even Count Basie has to take a step down and look up to Louis Armstrong. Because Louis Armstrong was the person that created the cadence vocally for both R&B, both the cadence, both with the horn section, the pianos, and the vocals for what will become rhythm and blues, what will become rock and roll, what will become rap. All that stuff. Pops was the person that everybody from Fats Waller to Quincy Jones to Louis Armstrong to Michael Jackson to Stevie Wonder credit for really being the archetype of our sound. And that black man was arrested for smoking weed on Sunset Boulevard. And his style of music, jazz, was accredited for black men being more likely to rape white women. So when I hear black people going around talking about some hip hop is a blame for our problem, you sound like them white folks that blame Louis Armstrong for black folks raping white women because we smoke too much weed. I want niggas to tolerate that, to think about that for a second. And don't be that black person going around perpetuating that stereotype. Crime exists because this is a violent ass country. We have a country that goes around the world raping, shooting, killing, and murdering everyone. As above, so below. The law of correspondence is real. Happens on a cellular level, happens on a societal level, happens on an individual level. What's going on the outside, what's going on. If you're treating people a certain way, that's why police officers have the highest rate of domestic violence. You can't go around bullying people all day at work and expect not to bring that behavior back home. That's why entertainers usually have the most miserable personal lives. Because entertainers out there projecting is one thing, they try to bring that back home, and people at your home don't see you the same way as the public sees you. So you deal with all kind of bullshit below. As above, so below. What you deal with how you project and how you deal with others on the outside is how you gonna deal with people inside. So we deal with a country that goes around fucking up other countries, bullying people, taking resources. That's what's gonna happen inside too. That's people can only mimic what they see. You got criminal parents, you got criminal kids. Every now and again, you get the exception of the kid that goes straight, but that's the exception. You get a country that's a bully, a country that sells drugs to a nation, that sells drugs to its own fucking citizens. You're gonna have citizens that sell drugs. When you have a nation that treats its own citizens brutally, you're gonna have a segment of those citizens that treat other citizens brutally. It's just fucking nature. If you want to change the nature of the behavior of the people within the country, you have to change the nature of how the country exists. But that's an issue that people don't feel powerless to do anything about, and that's okay. I don't think I can do anything either about how the country exists. But don't be a wussy and turn around and bully the side you think you can bully. If you feel powerless to do anything about it, then just sit your ass down and watch football then. You know what I mean? Watch basketball. Do some other shit. We go around for throwing up these red herrings and blaming our artists for the problems of society. The only thing you're doing is helping society. The only thing you're doing is helping them keep doing what they keep doing because you ain't focused on the people that's starting this shit. You're cutting the grass and not rooting it out. Stop being like that, nigga. If you ain't gonna help root out the problem, just go watch baseball and drink some lemonade. Nothing wrong with that. Not your goddamn business. But there's people out here that's really out here trying to solve things from the problem, from the root. And you grass cut niggas are in our fucking way. But y'all can follow me on YouTube at DwannB on this shit. DwannB everywhere, DwannB.com. Car readings, all that shit's on DwannB.com. Everything that I do. Go there.